Found this project to be it was an opportunity to finally apply a lot of different techniques that you have learned in this course to a real project, and I actually apply this stuff to a field of medical research that might actually make people lives better. Anyway, let's take a look at how I did it, and you can compare your results to mine. If you open up the memo underscore masters underscore project file in your course materials, you can snag a peek, and there's a lot of code here. I'm gonna go through every single line one at a time, but you can always take a look at it in more detail yourself. High level overview, a lot of the work is just preparing the data. That's just the reality of life as a data scientist. So I started off by just reading in the file naively edges, and I saw by visualizing the resulting pandas data frame that column information was missing. I have to do something about that. There is the question mark that I have to deal with. So I tried it again, this time specifying that question marks represent missing values and passing in a array of columns names, so I can actually get the proper column labels on there, and things look a little bit easier, but we still need two missing values that we need to deal with. I did a describe to get a handle on how bad the problem was, and you can see that for density in particular there is only 885 values in the entire dataset, widely different numbers of counts for different columns. So there is some missing data here that we need to deal with here. Now we want to make sure that by just row that have missing values, that we are not introducing some sort of inherent bias into the data by doing that. So just to eyeball the distribution of that missing data, I did this little block here to actually pull up any rows that had missing data in either of the 4 features column, and I came up with this just by looking at it. They do look pretty evenly distributed to me, so I feel okay about just dropping those rows entirely. We can just do drop now on that data frame to get rid of them, and do a describe to confirm that we do have the same count across all columns now. So we have a much cleaner data frame to work with now. Now I am going to extract these into NumPy that I can actually feed into scikit-learn. I am going to pluck out the features and then use values to convert that a NumPy array. I am going to pluck out the label column, the severity column, and convert that to an all classes array as well. I am also going to keep this array of columns name around for later use and take a look at the resulting all features array to make sure it looks like, sure enough it looks like 4 columns of 1 feature a piece, one for each mass that was recorded. Next we need to scale that data down, and like I gave you a standard, just use pre-processing dot standard scaler for that, and we can eyeball the data as well, and it does look normalized to me at this point. So that's an important step for many of these techniques. For example, SVM and neural networks really depend on that to work properly. Start off by doing decision trees and going back to the earlier lectures on these there. You should be able to convert what you are to this problem without too much trouble. But first we needed to create a train test split. We are going to do train test here on the decision tree here. So I used a model underscore selection train test splits function to do that. Gave it as consistent random. See, just so you can duplicate my results here if you want to. And scikit-learn makes beautiful classifies pretty easy, and it's always more or less the same format. So we'll start off by making a decision tree classifier with a given random state to start off with the fit that to our training inputs and our training classes that we extracted from train test split up there from our entire feature set. And we will then just go ahead and after fitting it doing that actual training. This is just using a similar code snippet that we did back in the decision tree lecture. We can see that really complicated things, and the sheer complexity of this resulting decision tree might be nature's way of telling you that a decision tree might not be the best solution here. You know, why does it have to go to all these gyration to get a reasonable results? That kind of tells you that the features that we are dealing with might not be split so easily. We can actually measure the results of this particular classifier by calling a score on it with our test data, and sure enough we are only getting a 73% accuracy on our test data set with the decision tree. So decision tree not so hot. Let's go ahead and move forward to K full cross validation instead of a single train test split, and that's gonna be a better way of evaluating these things. Maybe we just got unlucky with our split. We'll use cross val score instead using our classifier model, and that will automatically do the training stage for us and then do the testing for us as well on 10 different folds of the data. And by computing the mean of all those accuracies, we end up with at a score of still 73%. So sure enough, decision trees are only going to get us to about 73% accuracy on this data set. How about a random forest? What if actually use a random forest to try an ensemble of decision tree? Well, it turns out that does a little bit better with 75%, but still not great. Let's move on to SVM. Let's start out with a linear. See if that does very easy to do. We are just going to set up an SPC model with a linear kernel, and at that point we can just pass the model into cross-val score, pass in all of our features and class or label data, and it does the rest for us automatically. Very easy to use scikit-learn in this manner. So in just 4 lines of code we set up an SPC model. We did k-fold cross validation with 10 folds, and we computed the mean error from k-fold cross validation. This time we got up to 79.6%. So we are doing better than decision trees already. How about KNN? One of the most simple algorithms, but there is actually a k-neighbors classifier available in scikit-learn. So again, it's just a 3 lines of code to actually get set up a KNN classifier. On this data, I measure it with k-fold cross validation. That did surprisingly well, 78.5%. Little bit embarrassing that something as simple as KNN could actually outperform decision trees on this data. That's a surprising result. Now we know that KNN is sensitive to the value of k, so you might want to try different values of k and see how it does. In this example here, I actually iterated through k values of 1 through 50, and so if there was sort of sweet spot to be had there, it looks like things did kind of max out at around 79% accuracy, so can't really improve on that too much. Once you got beyond around k11 or so, things just sort of sat there and did not really get much better. How about naive ways? We can try this out. We need to first pre-process our data using minimax scalar for multinomial naive ways, but at that point it's just like any other scikit classifier model. So that we got 78.4%, so that in the running, that's up there with SVM and KNN so far. How about different kernels with SVM? We can just try this again with different kernels. So instead of linear, we can just run this a little bit with the RBF and a sigmoid and a polykernel. You can see that RBF is doing pretty well. We are up to over 80% so far. The winner is SVM with an RBF kernel. Pretty cool. Shows you the importance of hyperparameter tuning. The choice of kernel can make a really big difference. So we have tried some pretty fancy, fairly complicated technique here, including naive Bayes and SVM. These are all pretty complex algorithms. What if we just keep it simple? Well, it turns out there is a technique called logistic regression, which is just regression that's made for classification problems. And at the end of the day, this is just a binary classification problem. Let's just throw logistic regression at it. It seems like the most straightforward approach. Also very easy to try with our scikit-learn. By trying it out, we actually got a really good results of 80.7% accuracy. Really good. That's actually the winner so far. I mean, to be fair, a lot of these algorithms are giving us around 79 to 80%. So it is really a multi-way type. If you ask, logistic regression is a simple approach to the problem, and a lot of times simpler is better. On the flip side, we can do a neural network for this thing, see how that does. And here is that I ended up with, actually I tried a lot of different typologies here. This is what I ended up setting and turning out you don't need a whole lot to do this. All I ended up with was a very simple neural network with a single layer of just 6 neurons in it, and that was able to give me about 80% accuracy, which is comparable to the other good algorithms that performed well for this problem. Just to dive into it more, we are using the Keras layer of TensorFlow API, which is now available in TensorFlow 1.9 or greater, creating a sequential model. We are just adding in that single dense layer of 6 neurons with 4 inputs with a ReLU activation function and normally distributed random initializer values. We then have a single output neuron there with a sigmoid activation function, and we are using the binary cross entropy loss function because this is binary classification problem and the atom optimizer seemed to work best for me. Now that we have that model created, we can use the scikit-learn prepper for Keras and import the Keras classifier. Use that to build an estimator that can be used with scikit-learn with the model we created. We'll run it with 100 epochs and no verbosity, pass it into cross-val score to actually measure how good this thing is, and again we end up with about 80%, which is kind of interesting. So do we have a winner? Not really. Pretty much everything came out at around 80%, 79 to 80% accuracy. It's really a pretty big multi-weight tie-up, with the exception of decision tree. Decision tree did not do well at all. So the only real loser we have here is decision tree. But everything also did pretty well. So if it were up to me, I would keep it simple. You know, if you have a choice of algorithms that are equally good for a problem, stick with the simplest one. For me, I think that's probably logistic regression here. And you know, if you want to go back and fiddle with things some more, you might be able to squeeze some more performance out of one algorithm or the other, doing additional hyperparameter tuning or trying different typologies or that multi-layer perceptron in the neural network example. But at the end of the day, you are going to hard pressed to get data accuracy out of this particular data set. Anyhow, I hope that you very enlightening, and it's an opportunity to apply everything you are learned in this course to a real world problem that has real world applications. So yeah, I think that's pretty rewarding, and to this course you have actually had a chance to try a lot of different machine learning and data science techniques that we have covered in this course and applied it to a real world problem that could actually save lives, and if you are used for real. So congratulations. Let's move on. Thank you for watching this video. You have completed this course.